It's the Art of Action Figures, bringing you my top 10 figures of 2024. I found this year's list was much harder to make than 2023. My primary line, the SHF Dragon Ball line, really let me down this year, so while there are still some on this list for sure, there was a lot more competition from other lines and opportunity for them to break in. The contest for number 1 was also a lot tighter, and it really could have gone to any of the top 10 figures. Contrast that with last year, where it could not be anything but the exceptional, legendary Super Saiyan Goku, a total blockbuster of a figure for Dragon Ball fans, with great design, great build quality, and 1 year later he is still absolutely the right choice for Figure of the Year 2023. Now let's rapid fire some honorable mentions. The Tonson Art Toys Kid Buu might have been my Figure of the Year, but unfortunately disqualified itself on pretty poor build quality overall. The SHF Chun-Li Outfit 2 version from Street Fighter VI is also not eligible since it's a reissue of an older figure, but still a great one with some really nice updates. The Black Series B2 Super Battle Droid is a really well-built, sturdy, and fun figure, but is lacking a lot of metallic paint that would really set it off and is just not my favorite CIS droid. The SHF Ahsoka has one of the best 1/12 live-action likenesses in my collection, a masterpiece of a figure from the waist up, let down by the Yamaguchi fever dream that lies below. The SHF Android 20 is about as good as they could have done for this character, but there are some very essential androids Tamashii needs to be making, and Android 20 just wasn't one of them for me. SHF Mecha Frieza is beautifully detailed, but there is just something weird that bugs me about his proportions. Big head, long arms, short legs. Also, I am well tired of Namek and Frieza at this point, so Frieza penalty is applied here. And finally, JToys M Bison from Street Fighter II is one of the best quality figures in the $20 to $30 price range. Great articulation, great standard accessories across the line. This one includes a wired cloth cape, which is a relatively new capability for any line at this price point in 2024, which just puts him above the rest of the honorable mentions. In fact, he is exactly tied for 10th place in my ranking formula, with character bias as the tiebreaker, so let's go ahead and put him in the tableau as an honorary number 11. At number 10, it's the Star Wars Black Series Droideka from Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The Droideka Destroyer droid has been one of my favorite Star Wars designs from the minute they rolled onto a theater screen 25 years ago. This was one of my most anticipated figures of 2024, and while Hasbro did disappoint me on some aspects, like the B2, it needed a lot more metallic silver paint. One missing joint prevents it from accurately transforming into wheel mode, which is just frustrating. And frankly, it has some very, very loose joints that make standing it in attack mode a challenge. But when you do get it standing, it is just pure shelf presence, and my number 10 figure for 2024, the Black Series Droideka. Number 9 is the Storm Collectibles Morrigan from Darkstalkers. An essential character for my Marvel vs. Capcom 2 collection, finally gets an action figure made, but unfortunately it's the weird Storm Collectibles scale, so no pairing with Jada, SHF, Legends, Mafex, etc. Another drawback is the accessories are kinda goofy style, especially the 4 faces, 3 with the most subtle expressions the human face is capable of, and 1 that is total Looney Tunes, all with delicate wings duplicated on each head for some reason, which just seems unnecessary. This is my first and probably only figure from this line, but the engineering seems to be Storm's standard mix of soft plastics with some embedded joints, but exceptional here are the back wings, which are a particularly challenging feature for the character that Storm handled beautifully with multiple stable swivel hinge combo joints for plenty of pain-free posability. And what's probably most obvious and outstanding here is Storm's aesthetic, the beautiful color and paint applied with consistent matte finish over one hell of a sculpt equal parts spoopy and seductive, my number 9 figure for 2024 is Storm Collectibles Morrigan. At number 8, it's the SH Figuarts Full Power Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. Straight up, this is the best SHF Dragon Ball figure released in 2024, and I imagine it'll make number 1 on a lot of lists. For me, however, the Frieza penalty is in full effect. Frankly, I need some more variety across DBZ out of SHF next year, but Full Power Frieza is aesthetically perfect with great body 3.0 articulation and the coolest energy effects in the line. The only minor gripes that I have are the Goku DLC, which is well executed but not Frieza specific and should therefore just come with Goku, which would leave room for the missing severed body effects, which this figure just isn't complete without. Whether it's due to cost or censorship, both are frustrating reasons for an adult-oriented, made-to-order P Bandai exclusive. If I hadn't already bought 5 other figures of Frieza and his family members in the last 2 years, while still waiting on a perfect sell, this would be a very, very different story. However, even if he wasn't tippy-top of my wish list for the year, or even in the top 20, he's still on there somewhere and is a great addition to the collection. At number 8, the SHF Full Power Frieza. At number 7, it's JToys Camy from Street Fighter 2. Sporting her classic outfit in all its 90s retro-futurist, paramilitary, tactical, wedgie sex appeal, Jada held nothing back in the sculpt, and the articulation is as on point as ever for them. A few blemishes in the finish, but overall, I love the vibrant blocks of color and strong but simple iconographic art style Jada is going for with this line. It's straight out of the 2D in-game sprites. Jada's consistent quality, communication, and customer support has generated a lot of goodwill, which is really refreshing and sorely lacking in a lot of collecting brand communities. And Camy is the standout figure from them this year. Number 7, the JToys Camy. At number 6, it's Mafex Bo-Katan from Star Wars The Mandalorian. Exceptional sculpt and paint, smooth and sturdy articulation. Not as many accessories as the Mandalorian 2.0 from Mafex, but not really lacking anything except maybe a darksaber and some hands to hold it. My feelings about this figure hinge on whether or not she has the helmet on. Without, the hair sculpt is leagues better to the Black Series, thanks to the helmet being swappable instead of wearable, but the likeness is just not quite there for me. Swap the helmet on, though, and this becomes nearly a perfect figure. She goes back and forth with the SHF Ahsoka and Black Series CIS droids for my favorite Star Wars figure this year, but overall is probably the least flawed of them all and a great figure. Just not the most essential Star Wars character for me, so altogether lands at number 6, the Mafex Bo-Katan. Top 5. At number 5, it's Wiki Toys Twin Dancer from Atomic Heart. Answering the question how far an obscure but great figure can make it in my top 10 when I have no attachment to the IP, this is just that. Unsurprisingly, there are supposed to be 2 twins, and I did get the pre-order bonus warm-up jacket that can create the other look, but since this figure is in Mafex price range and to me is more of a generic ballerina assassin bot, I don't really feel the need to have 2. Maybe they could have reduced the cost without the LED feature in the head, which I really could do without. Comparison to Mafex continues in the articulation, which is basically a best of Mafex style joints, and simply cannot be stopped. The glossy black leotard, chainmail, limbs, and cold metal sheet for a face are a striking and sinister design, placed over an overtly feminine silhouette with, despite Android, the most organic looking abdomen on any figure I own. Is that weird to say? Number 5, the Wiki Toys Twin Dancer. Number 4, the SH Figuarts Super Android 17 from Dragon Ball GT. One of the few SHF Dragon Ball figures I was actually excited for this year. Finally a GT villain This design has always been a personal favorite, and the figure really delivers. Sculpt, detail, articulation, and accessories are all on point, only lacking due to some fiddly hair and scarf action. The Goku DLC is a fly in the soup as usual for me, but at least it is very Super 17 specific, so not exactly essential to have without Super 17. A little pricey, as most P-Bandai releases are, but like Turles, I think he's kind of a sleeper hit for the year, and my number 4, the SHF Super Android 17. Number 3, the SH Figuarts Super Saiyan Son Gohan, the fighter who surpassed Goku, from Dragon Ball Z. I said Super 17 was one of my most anticipated SHF Dragon Ball releases of the year because this was the most. Finally, some Cell Saga representation, a really good Body 3.0 update to one of the oldest figures in the line, number 3, I believe. My favorite appearance for Gohan with the pale, full power Super Saiyan hair and Piccolo cape, and holy moly, the cape is designed in the best way possible and executed beautifully. Soft plastic for the specific wrinkles of the collar piece and cloth for the billowy part. And unlike the SHF Ahsoka, the cloth feels high quality, it's fully wired around the perimeter, and is the highlight of the figure for me. If only all 2024 releases got the cape treatment like this. Gohan could have made it to number 1, but was let down by lacking a smiling face, again, and some weird, inconsistent, milky and glossy finish on the skin tone parts, and some build quality concerns like squeaky joints and very tight hip and thigh swivels that took a lot of TLC to feel safe to move. But with that sorted out, this is one of the most fun figures to pose and play with this year. Now, if only they'd start filling out the rest of the Cell games. My number 3, the SHF Gohan fighter that surpassed Goku. Number 2, Tonson Art Toys Future Trunks version 6A. My favorite look for my favorite Dragon Ball Z character gets favorite character treatment from a third-party brand. How could it not be high on my list? Honestly, the main reason it's not number 1 is that it is an unlicensed figure, but this one did make me break last year's rule that unlicensed figures had to go on a separate third-party only list. I may still do one if folks are interested, but with articulation and accessories that are this good, and unlike Kid Buu, less concerning build quality, I had to snub Tamashii a little bit for really dropping the Dragon Ball this year. If you're loving SHF Dragon Ball lately, don't let me stop you. At this point though, I have serious doubts that Tamashii would even make an official SHF of this version of Trunks, or that it would be anywhere near this good. If Boy from the Future Trunks was anything to go by, that figure has a painfully incomplete set of faces, and some of the worst build quality problems on an official Bandai figure. The other hype limiter for Tonson here is splitting oodles of accessories across 4 variants of this same figure, all releasing at roughly the same time. I'm not exactly opposed to this, and if that's what it takes for Tamashii to make figures this good, I'd say bring it on. But it does make it harder to rank what feels like a quarter of a figure. This version 6A has most of the essentials for making a Brawly and Bojack movie Future Trunks, which is why it's the one that makes the list. At number 2, the Tonson Art Toys Future Trunks 6A. Alright, I'm out of Dragon Ball, Star Wars, Street Fighter. What does that leave? At number 1, SH Figuarts 2B from Nier Automata version 1.1a. If you were gaming in the late 2010s, it was hard to miss this statement of a character design. Of course, the visor and stockings are quite alluring and sexy, but there's a restrained, gothic elegance in the monochromatic color and deceptively intricate chandelier dress. 2B is a character that always looked very figurific, which is like toyetic but fancy. However, with the license squarely locked up over at Square Enix, 1/12 figures were limited to the Bring Arts line, which has a reputation for poor quality to cost ratio. Enter the version 1.1a anime with a much more open license apparently, allowing more figure brands to take a lyrical dancing slash at it, SHF and BuzzMod both released versions of 2B this year, and Figma is releasing one in 2025. BuzzMod to me skirted a little too close to the Bringarts end of the spectrum, but Figuarts, on the other hand, felt like one of the best values this year. The delicate details and finish are extremely crisp and clean, the articulation is maximum, and the accessories are excellent. And since the character design pretty much means she's propped up full time, it's really nice that they included a dedicated display stand for both her and Pod, along with a clever, well-hidden Figma-style peg hole in her back to avoid having to wrestle with an unsightly waist clip. Really, the only things I feel are missing are the light gray inner skirt lining and the larger two-handed katana Virtuous Treaty, which Bringarts, BuzzMod, and Figma all include. When I reviewed the figure, I hadn't played Nier Automata, but I liked the figure so much that I did go and watch the anime, and really enjoyed it. It maintains what seems like a lot of the game's great soundtrack, uses these cool, surreal dream sequences to depict hacking into the machines, and overall has a lighter, more hopeful tone than I was expecting. And generally, it's only increased my enjoyment of the figure and made me want to pick up the SHF 9S. Poor 9S. What remains to be seen is how the Figma 2B will compare. The promos look very promising, but since it technically doesn't exist yet and could be an absolute dud or total banger like Dread Samus, it wouldn't really be fair to count that against the excellent SHF this year. So my number one figure of the year for 2024 is the SHF 2B. And with that, wherever you are, whenever you are, I wish you a very happy new year, good fortune, and plenty of art and kindness to go around. This has been the Art of Action Figures. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.